I would say that the one thing that is probably hubris on my part, but is that I always think that if I don't know something, I can learn it. So learning to give would be really, I know almost this much. I mean, I only know enough about education because I went through school. I don't know very much about the formal structure of K-12 education. And yet, at the, I had real passion for this. I mean, this was a place that I thought, if we're ever going to make a difference in the world long term, it's going to be to make sure that the next generation really understands and has the experience that neither you or I ever had the luxury of having. I mean, there just weren't these programs when we were kids, or even in college or graduate school. So Dottie had put together an advisory committee to first talk about, does this make sense, of key funders, of people like state school board members, of Jim Kelly, who had put together the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards, other people who were a cross mix of foundation people and education people. So that committee stayed in place, and I wrote, as I was a part of the committee, and then I wrote the grant to the Kellogg Foundation for Learning to Give. And at the time, it was called a very jazzy title, the K-12 Education and Philanthropy Project, which nobody could pronounce, no one could remember, but it was descriptive of what we were doing. So the first thing that we did was, at the advisory committee, in talking with the head of the social studies for the state of Michigan, and teachers, classroom teachers, they said, it can't be done. They said everybody in the world wants to put their curriculum into the K-12 curriculum. That the teachers put up a wall the minute that they hear that, oh, here's one more thing that we're going to be asked to do with no money and with no, benefit. And even if they believed in it, that they're just, overwhelmed. Testing, standardized testing was coming in at that time, and they were overwhelmed by the move to having to standardize their curriculum. And the best phrase I remember from Jim Kelly said, you're being asked to do something that the education system is set up to resist. So just know going in that, they are not going to want to do this. And so we made the decision that we would go in at the grassroots. Most people develop these kind of projects for schools by going from the school board down and by asking university professors to write, curriculum for the kindergarten teacher. We threw that out and said, what we're going to do is we're going to make this owned by classroom teachers. It's going to be grassroots, it's going to be teacher-focused, and we're going to honor teachers as professionals, and we're going to treat them for what they know. And so we recruited teachers, and frankly, we used a carrot of being able to give them a computer, because we wanted it to be a virtual system in order to be able to cover the UP, Northern Michigan, Southern Michigan, urban schools, private schools, suburban schools, and make sure that we have religious schools, that we had all of the different types of K-12 education in that first pool of teachers. And then I hired as an assistant a long-time, highly respected classroom teacher, social studies teacher out of Detroit. And he became the coach on how to look at this from the classroom teacher point of view. And we began to meet with them. We met with them. We said, here's what we want to do. We want to teach philanthropy. And then we spent about a week talking with them about the fact that it's not just giving rich people, having rich people give money to poor people, that we wanted to redefine it. And we sent out a survey to the top thinkers in the field, about 35 people who have really thought deeply, and we asked them, what should a graduating high school student know about philanthropy, and what should they be able to do? What should be their attitudes? Got those surveys in. We sent out the answers to everybody. They answered again, and eventually, from that research process, we came up with some major ideas that needed to be transmitted to the next generation. We took those general ideas to the teachers, and we said, here's the ideas we want to be taught, but you all know how to teach it. So would you help us turn these into standards and benchmarks that work for you? And I think the key to Learning to Give was, we said, it cannot be additional work. We have to integrate this curriculum in a way that you can teach what you are already being expected to teach, but just from this lens of philanthropy and giving. And I would say one of the examples I've always used is every fourth grade teacher in Michigan teaches about the Underground Railroad. It's a part of American history, it's always taught, but no one except Learning to Give teachers talks about the fact that they were all volunteers, and that the conductors and the abolitionists, and how do people organize themselves to stand up to an unjust law, that there is this richness in your normal curriculum that you can get at by teaching it through this philanthropic lens. And so we had the luxury, because of Kellogg funding, to do a lot of things that I think of as being right. We had a fairness review committee. We were able to field test lessons before they went into the classroom. And then, of course, the wonderful piece for me is that we were able to demonstrate philanthropy, because we said to the teachers, if you'll write the lesson plans, we will, for free, we will put them on the website with your name, and that will be your contribution to philanthropy. And with that, we promise that these materials will be available for free forever for all teachers. So it still is available. It's still free. It's they're getting about 2 million hits from teachers and downloads a year. It's developed with, we asked the graduate students at the new Centers on Philanthropy to write briefing papers that are kind of like cliff notes, because we couldn't, we knew that teachers weren't going to know anything about this content, and it would be unfair to ask them to teach something that they were not familiar with. So they could have a little briefing paper on people, ideas, or organizations, and that would give them some background material. And then we did a lot of seminars and workshops and those kinds of things. So it's a fun project. It's still going on.